Welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. Our theme for 2025 is the future of work. Meaning is the new money. In a world shaped by rapid innovation and constant change, the pursuit of purpose and impact has never been more important. I'm Dr. John Dentico, your host, bringing over 30 years of experience in leadership, strategic thinking, and purpose-driven innovation. Here, we tackle the pressing challenges of our time, from the rise of artificial intelligence to the growing need for meaning in the workplace. Together, we'll uncover how leaders can ethically integrate AI to enhance decision-making and keep humanity at the heart of their organizations. Remember, amidst all the technological advancements, in the end, it's always about the people. This podcast is your resource for actionable tools, thought-provoking discussions, and inspiring stories. It's time to go beyond leadership development and focus on leadership impact, creating workplaces where people thrive, innovation flourishes, and meaning truly becomes the new currency. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now, let's throttle up and dive into today's episode. Hello again and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Dr. John Dentico. With me today is Zachary Green. Zachary is a U.S. Marine veteran, former firefighter, and serial entrepreneur. Zachary grew his company from the trunk of his car to over $30 million in revenue and was recognized as the Ohio Chamber of Commerce Entrepreneur of the Year. As an international best-selling author of Warrior Entrepreneur, Zachary blends battle-tested leadership lessons with modern-day business and team-building strategies. Through Warrior Enterprises, he leads immersive leadership development programs that use history's greatest battles to teach today's leaders how to navigate challenges, build high-performing teams, and inspire their organizations. Zachary's passion is helping fellow veterans transition into purposeful civilian leadership roles while continuing to serve their communities. I am truly pleased and honored to welcome a fellow veteran here today with me. Good morning, Zachary. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. It really is an honor to be on your podcast. I'm a huge fan, and this is really exciting to get a chance to speak with you in person.
Oh, great. I'm looking forward to it. So, Zachary, I'm adding sort of a personal touch, if you will, to my podcast, and I'd like to ask you to start off with this question. Tell me a bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? And what, in your mind, were some of the fundamental influences in your life?
So I grew up in Cincinnati, and I think one of the fundamental influences on my life is this understanding of what normal should look like. I struggled a lot growing up. I had very significant ADHD, and it's funny because when you get out of school, they call that multitasking, and it's this great thing. Oh, he's an energetic multitasker. But when you're in school, it's challenging, and constantly being told I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't good enough, but I knew that there was something great out there for me. I just didn't know what it was. And for me, the influence was the Marine Corps. Knowing that I could be part of this incredible organization and earn the right to do that. And for me, that really put me on a trajectory that got me to where I am today. And more importantly, helped me survive some really difficult times along that pathway.
I agree. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I have called upon my naval experience to save me. The ability to gut it out, as they say, to have the grit. I mean, that's part of what I got is that ability to, even when things are not looking very good, to just be able to endure and get through it. So I
That
absolutely
is one of
agree.
my absolute favorite words is grit, because it encompasses courage. It encompasses tenacity. It encompasses all those warrior traits that I'm talked to so many people about.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's an amazing experience. I love the Navy. I still love it today. And I had a great time. And I'm sure you know this. The best part of being in a military organization is the people. The people are really what really makes the experience better than you can imagine. So I appreciate that. Zachary, let me ask you this next question if I could. Do you have a mission statement And if so, can you tell me, my listeners and viewers, what it is and how you arrived at it?
I do. And it's basically that leadership never changes, only people and technology change. And it's been evolving over time. I'm a huge fan of different leadership books, everything from John Maxwell to Stephen Covey to the greats of Zig Ziglar and those other ones. But what ends up happening is every 5 to 10 years, there seems to be this new leadership trend or this new leadership tactic. And as you start to get back and really look at battlefields where I think real true leadership is tested, I'm talking all the way back to the Spartans, to things that happened during biblical times, to the Civil War. There seems to be a core group of true leadership that has been consistent. And that's really what I've kind of the mission I'm on now, is to get people to go back to what true leadership is and those indelible ones that don't change, and then how we can adopt personalities and technology to those fundamental leadership principles.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I have to say, I'm a purveyor of this idea that leadership models are changing. Yet it's a circuitous route, meaning it's always coming back to the basic principles of trust and honesty, integrity, those kinds of things, which I think in the world of business for a long time, people got away from and didn't see it. And now they're seeing it. Now they're seeing it because of the level of hyper change that we're going through right now. How do we deal with this kind of thing? So we'll get more onto that. Go ahead.
Well, and I was going to say, what this changes is not the core leadership, it's the tools and how we manipulate them and how we work through them. That's what changes. But those core things that you just talked about, those have been consistent.
Right. I agree. I just don't think that when I left active service and went into business, you could see such a almost unbelievable change in how people conducted themselves, and you lose a lot of that esprit de corps, the camaraderie. At least that was my own experience, and it leaves you wanting. What happened? I was with this phenomenal group of people, and we could do anything together. And now it's everybody, and it's for where I was, it was every person for themselves. And that I think is really where I saw the change. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, one of those timeless leadership principles that I focus on all the time is purpose. And you don't have a lot of purpose other than the almighty dollar in the civilian world, but you do in the military. Every morning, every evening, when you stand for colors or taps, you remind you why you're there. The other thing is that tribe. It's more than just a team. It's more than a group. It's actually, again, a tribe. You fight together, you love together, you die together. It's very different. And one of the reasons a lot of our brother and sister veterans tend to have real struggles when they get out is, number one, they lose the tribe, and then they can't find that new sense of purpose.
I agree. I absolutely agree. That's why I think mission statements are so important. As you well know, what are we doing here? What's our mission?
It's
Everybody lives and everybody lives and dies by the mission. I mean,
it's the North Star. Yep.
that is always the North Star. And I'll tell you the truth. I've been mentioning this on podcasts in the past. I got away from mission statements for a while. I didn't want to talk about it. This is when I was, started working in the world of leadership and leadership training. I got away from it. And the reason is because I got tired. I got tired. Do you guys have a mission statement? Oh, yeah. Where is it? What's hanging on the wall over there? You live it? You breathe it? You do it every day? No, we walk by it every day. After a while you go, I just can't do much more of this. But I have now returned to talking about mission statements with great fervor because I now recognize that is the North Star, not only for military organizations, but for businesses, especially when you consider that one of the key desires of this multi-generational workforce we now have, living with the residue of the COVID pandemic, the aftermath of the COVID pandemic, is this notion of values alignment. In other words, People want to work for an organization whose values align with their own. And if you can't align values, one thing you're going to experience is high turnover, in my opinion, because people will join you, they'll come in and then they'll go, well, wait a minute, what am I all about? What am I doing here? And I'd love to get your reflection on that.
Boy, you're talking my love language now. This is so incredibly deep. This is what I talk to so many of my clients about in lectures that I give. So there's a lot to unpack here. So the first of all, the mistake that we make is we hire on skill, not on values. Resume does not talk about values. The bots that we use to scrub the thousands of resumes, they look for skills. I've got experience in Six Sigma, or I can do this type of coding or whatever else. And the most dangerous person in an organization is somebody that has high skill with low value alignment. And the reason they're so dangerous is they can hold the company hostage. They will literally blackmail their boss, knowing that there's no way we can fire this guy because he knows where the special code is, or he's got these clients that are so good that we know if we lose him, we're going to lose the clients. But yet they create cancer in the organization. And when you look at some of the highest performing teams, Simon Sinek, who I think is one of the most brilliant minds we have amongst us today, he looked at some of the top organizations. So arguably one of the best, tightest organizations there is development group within the Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 6, as a lot of people call it. They don't look at skill. The understanding is if you're already on the SEAL teams, you have the skill. What they look at is, do I want to work with this guy? And the evaluation process to get into dev group is not some additional physical fitness or anything. It's just a survey. They basically go out to the other teammates and they say, is this guy cool or is he not? And then you get onto the green team and then you got to go through the training. And then that's how you end up, staying or not staying. But value alignment is so critical. And a lot of companies don't even know what their values are, let alone what their mission statement is.
Yeah. I'll tell you an interesting story. I've been talking for the last year and a half, presentations, podcasts, different things like that, about this notion of values alignment. And I recognized, and this is my fault. I recognized that I was building the bridge from one side of the river. I was talking to companies about making sure that, here's a technique, I call it the shared values recruiting exercise or technique. And this is one way you can examine an individual's values, get to the values, have the discussion, open the discussion of values, to understand what value baseline they're using. Okay, so that you could look at them and say, yeah, this kind of person. What I had not been doing, and this is where the mission statement thing comes in, was saying to the company, well, you know what? You have to really express your values in such a way that you're building the bridge from the other side of the river, so that eventually you'll meet at the middle. And that's why mission statements are so important. In fact, I know you're a fan of this, and I've been dying to talk to you about this, and that is Thermopylae. I said Thermopylae. And so here's what I've been doing sometimes at the presentations. I get a kick out of it. I ask people, have you ever seen the movie 300 with Gerard Butler? And everybody. I said, they had a slogan. What was their slogan? This is Sparta. Does anybody not know who we are? Does anybody want to talk around the campfire about how we might want to change the slogan? Or does anybody, here comes the joke, does anybody want to go to HR with Leonidas and talk about what the slogan is? And the answer is no. And again, that's not a mission statement, but it's a slogan. This is Sparta. And everybody knows who. Everybody, including the farmers who till the fields, produce the grain, raise the cattle to feed the warriors, because everybody's on the same page. And it's that little example that I use to say, when you talk to prospective employees, you better know what your "this is Sparta" idea is. Now, that's not a mission statement. That's just a slogan. For me, a mission statement is one sentence, active verbs. This is who we are, this is what we do, and this is why we do it. You don't get a page. You don't get 11 paragraphs, because if you're looking at that in a company, in a prospective employee, those are folks who are trying to be, what's the word I want to say? They're trying to be liked by everybody, right? No. Who are you? What are you here to do? What are you all about? One sentence. It's all you need. Because it is, and the term I use, is a galvanizing spirit for the people inside the organization, not just meant for people outside the organization. I'd love to get your reflection on that.
Yeah. So I think the mission statement is, I like what you say, what we are, how we do it, why we do it. That's kind of the roadmap. But what you're talking about with Sparta is a bigger word, and that's culture. And the culture is a combination of all that. So let's talk a little bit about the culture of Sparta. It was so intense that when a baby was born, the first thing they did when it was a day or two old is looked at it. And if there was any abnormalities, they literally threw it off a cliff because they didn't want that to ruin their bloodline. The second thing is the kids that were identified to be warriors, they were literally taken from their parents at a very early age and put into the Spartan academies, and they were brutal. They had to fight every single day just to be able to eat. And if you weren't able to make it through it, you literally got killed. They didn't just send you home to your parents. And then I think the most underappreciated component of the Spartan culture is the women, because the women told the men, you either come back with your shield or you come back on your shield. That's pretty deep. You better come with the win, or don't even come home to mom because I don't even want you there. And so when you get that kind of culture and you realize that surrender is not an opportunity, that nothing happens. Sparta was a very small culture. It was not very big, and it only lasted for a short amount of time. But why did that resonate now, thousands and thousands of years ago? I think actually in my book, I have a whole thing about how many schools use the word Spartans. It's in the hundreds of Division Ones and thousands of high schools use the Spartan as their motto because of that culture. Now, would that culture work today? Absolutely not. That's brutal, but we didn't have people living those type of harshness that they had back in those times. But it really is a good example.
Yeah, it's a good example of real focus. I mean, of as you say, culture, focus, mission. We're here to accomplish this mission. Nobody messes with us. We're Sparta, and everybody knows what we do. So I absolutely agree. It's a very interesting study to me in terms of mission and focus. So I appreciate that very much. Zachary, here's one of my you may be a little bit redundant here, but that's okay. I want to ask you to tell me your perspective or your definition of leadership.
So I can start by telling you what leadership is not. And leadership is not management. And a lot of people confuse those two. So management is checking a list, making sure we're doing things right, or leadership is doing the right things. The other thing is leadership is all about intangibles. Management is all about specific, concrete, actionable activities. What I talk about intangibles, it's inspiration. It's getting people wanting to do more. It's getting people ultimately to follow you. And there's so many components to go into that, but a lot of people mistake management for leadership. And you can be a leader from any point within an organization. A title does not make you a leader. You can have the receptionist that's worked there for 30 years that everybody goes to when they need help or they need a question, they want to know where something is, versus the CEO that comes in there. And yeah, he's probably a great manager and he's making sure everyone's doing the things, but nobody really understands what he's trying to do and why he's trying to do it. And they don't want to follow him. The last thing I'll share on that is I think in order to be, not I think, I know you've got to be a good follower to understand what a good leader works with. Because when you find a good leader, you want to do everything you can to support them. And if you've never been in that position, it's hard to understand how to motivate other people. And my leadership has been developed by some of the great leaders that I've had and how much I loved following them and hoping that I can inspire that same feeling in the people that work with me now.
It's interesting. I have fun chapters in my book. It's chapter 3. And the title of the chapter is Not Everything We Do is Leadership. And because here's the problem. Having with a doctorate in leadership studies, I've been in the crowded attic of leadership for 30 years, pulling stuff out. If you can imagine, you walk into an attic in someone's home they've lived there for 30 years, and you go up there and you say, oh, this place is stuffed with things. So I've been tossing stuff out of the attic, trying to find some clarity, if you will. And having said that, I I can tell you that one of the problems with the word leadership is the word itself. And let me explain. Everyone wants to be known as a good leader. Everybody wants to be known as someone who does great leadership. The problem is we've seen so many permutations about the word. To give you an example, I have a friend of mine, Dick, who is a former adjunct professor at Ohio State. He's the head of something called the PRM Institute. And for the last 20 years, he's collected definitions and ideas of leadership. Dick Webster. The last time I talked to Dick, I said, Dick, what's the number? And he said, right now, models, definitions, 646 different definitions and models of leadership. When I wrote my book, it was 550. So there are so many people who call anything they do leadership because the nobility of the word, the power of the word in the lexicon is just so overwhelming. Yet, as you agree, I agree with you. Not everything we do is leadership. In terms of management, I make the differentiation this way. I say management really is about efficiency. Okay. It's really about making things efficient. And that's great. We need good management. Yeah, we need great. Leadership is about effectiveness. You got to have both. Okay. You can have a process in an organization that's very efficient and produces very little in terms of knowledge or information to run that organization, for example. So there comes a time when you just can't put another Band-Aid on the problem. You have to, as I like to say, leadership to me is taking out a clean piece of paper and saying, you know what, we can't keep doing this stuff the old way. Let's take out a clean piece of paper and start over. So for me, that's the differentiation. And I'll add one more thing to it. Strategic planning, that's really management. Strategic thinking is really about leadership. How do you think strategically? And the way I differentiate between those two is this. Strategic planning is about finding answers to questions. Strategic thinking is making sure you're asking yourself the right questions. And a lot of times we see that is not going on. People just go on and on. And the halls, I'm sure you've seen this, the halls of business are aligned with the carcasses of organizations and businesses who somehow refuse to ask themselves the right questions. I'd love to get your reflection.
So I think a real simple way of saying that is management is doing things right and leadership's doing the right things. Just to piggyback off of that, when you talk about the carcasses of ineffective leaders, I come up with thinking of Blockbuster Video, or come up with Eastman Kodak, arguably one of the biggest companies out there that wasn't thinking strategic and long-term in those type of areas there, and understand what's coming, reading the tea leaves. And again, I do believe it's more of an art than a science when you get to leadership. I think that management is absolutely a science. Six Sigma tells you exactly, if you do X, Y, and Z, this is how you can reduce repetition and waste and other types of things. But having that just in the vacuum, that's not going to get people to push them to that next level and get them to unlock things that they didn't think they could do themselves. That's where that culture, inspiration, values, again, all those intangible things that I talked about at the beginning, that really comes through. And just because you've got all that, just because I give you 5 colors of paint doesn't mean you're going to be able to paint a masterpiece. You still have to have that innate talent there. And it's okay. One of my favorite movies, and it's got some funny lines, is Caddyshack. And there's that one scene where the judge is talking to the caddy and he says, the world needs ditch diggers too, son. And it's a hard thing to say, but the reality is true. We don't need a bunch of job foremen. We need ditch diggers too. And we don't need to make everybody into leaders. Some people are going to do a great job. Just focus on what they're doing and doing it right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think also, as you know from the military services, no one ever asks you this question, but it's kind of a joke. No one asks you. I remember when I was a brand new naval officer, nobody ever said to me, your problem is you don't have enough charisma. Or, you know what, you just don't have the right traits. You just don't, which is based on a lot of the leadership ideas. No, they just said to me, go to work, get it done, figure it out. And so the opportunity for everyone to step into a leader role is there without any prejudgments. There's no prejudgments. It's just who can step in and do the job. And that allows, I believe, leaders to come from so many different walks of life, so many different perspectives. And because the opportunity's there, the question is, can you earn it? And that's a word, man. I'll tell you, that's my word for 2025 is earn. We
Well,
talk a lot about, go ahead.
and I was just going to say, what you're talking right there is authenticity. And if you have someone act a certain way that you want them to act, they're not being authentic to themselves, to thy own self be true. And so when you say figure it out, they're knowing that if you use a very directive leadership style and you're not a very directive person, people are going to see that and it's not going to be effective. So that authenticity is really what they're giving you permission for.
Yeah.
Within the boundaries, within the culture and the boundaries of what we set up in society or that organization.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, but I think more and more today, especially in the wake of the COVID pandemic, we talk about values. And now with this integration of AI at an unbelievable rate, the question is, in an organization, who's really the knowledge people? And the answer is, I mean, who can participate? In my model of leadership, in the one I started developing 30 years ago, it's built on one premise. Okay. The single premise for my leadership model is contribution. So, for example, we have a problem. We have an issue. Anybody got any ideas? Anybody want to weigh in on this? Anybody? I'm open. Bring it. And I think that's becoming more and more the model of the day. I have to say that. Because now and I was part of a group 30 years ago when browsers were just coming online. Okay. When I built my first computer in 1993 with a whopping 1 megabyte of RAM and a 10 megabyte hard drive. So we saw
and
this.
Floppy disks.
And the big
Not
ones.
even the hard ones. The old
the 5-inch
ones. Right.
5-inch guys. That's right. And I wrote my doctoral dissertation on the computer that I built with an operating system called Windows ME, which is now referred to semi-fondly as Windows Mistake. But the idea was we looked at this and we developed foresight. We said, okay, we understand what's going on right now. And I think you can do that today. We understand what's going on right now. Let's extrapolate that into the future. What does that look like? Well, we saw the distribution of knowledge, the distribution of information through the internet. And we said, well, if this continues on, there's going to be a lot of people out there who have a lot of information that they can use. So that's kind of, for me, how it all began, I saw this and said, you know what? We need to invite those people into the decision-making process. And that's number 2, by the way. That's the big thing that most people are searching for today. Let me matter. Let me be part of something. I want my work to matter. I want to matter. I want to be master of my own fate. How do I do that? Well, let's create a place for those folks.
And
Go ahead. And make no judgments. No, it's okay. Make no judgments about anybody in the room. I don't make any judgments about anybody. Never as a trainer. And I've been training for 30 years. You know what? Here it is. Help us out. What do you think?
And again, back to Simon Sinek again, it's a lot of us focus on the what and the how, but the companies that focus on the why are the ones that really understand and get it. So to your point is, why did they say that? What is the why? Why are they coming to work? Is it just because they're chasing a dollar? Is it because they're doing, or they want to make a difference and they want to feel improved? And I think in the past, you'd see people working in the organization for 30, 40 years, get their gold watch and retire. And they probably didn't necessarily have the why. They just didn't know anything else. And now you've got this younger generation that's saying, hey, if you don't look, when you and I were interviewing, if you had multiple jobs on your resume, you were considered unhireable because you jumped too much. Now, if you don't have enough on your resume, you're considered unhireable because they're saying, why did you work for a company for 10 years? That's weird. Why did you work for 3 companies? And it's that constant searching that why. And then I also think the why changes. I mean, my leadership drastically changes when I became a father. I looked at the world differently. I looked at everything different. My leadership was very different when I was an 18-year-old Lance Corporal in the infantry, because all I wanted to focus on was getting my next meal or my next beer with my buddies, or things that we're not allowed to talk about on the podcast. So it's what we're mainly focused on. And now I have a whole different perspective on where my why is and what I want to do. And it goes back to the central thing that I talk about, the hero's journey, Justice Campbell. And that is, you go from adventure and craving this adventure, crossing the threshold, going through your challenges, having your crucible, getting knocked down, getting built back up. And then where you and I are is we now have this magic elixir. We now have this secret, and we come back to the home realm and we want to share it with the next generation. And that's where but you have to go through those challenges and those difficulties in order to be able to come up with that wisdom. And I think that at the end of the day, and you look at all the great movies, Star Wars, The Godfather, the Homer, the Iliad, even the Bible for that matter, it's all about this journey of transformation and difficulty, and then coming back with this newfound wisdom to share to the next group and have that all connect together there.
I'm a huge fan of Joseph Campbell. I wrote about Campbell in my book. I'm also, interestingly enough, I see Campbell's work connecting directly to that of Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning, in the sense that what Campbell says is, I love this one line, the celebrity acts for self, the hero acts to redeem society. And part of the heroic journey, which anyone is capable of embarking on, if you will. So absolutely. And my other favorite quote from Campbell is, stop searching for the meaning of life. How does he say it? We stop searching for the meaning of life. We're involved in experiencing life. Life is about experiencing life, going out there. And it's not what, as I like to say, it's not what life means to me. It's what do I mean to life? And I think that's so very important. Go ahead.
One of my, I love cars. I absolutely love cars. Just since I was a little kid, I had pictures of fancy Italian cars on my wall. And when I started my business, I bought a little model of a Ferrari. And I said, one day I'm going to buy this car. One day I'm going to get it. And I was fortunate enough, built the company up, was able to buy the car, and I got rid of it a year later. And I was like, why do you get rid of it? I'm like, I realized it was never about the car. It was about the journey to get to that. And so now I want to get another car that's even more than that. I haven't got it. And it's that push. So to your point is we're looking for the answer. And I thought the car was the answer, but it really wasn't. It was having that, oh, I'm almost there. And then once you get it, yeah, that was cool the first couple of weeks, because I'm like, man, I finally checked that box off. But now I want another one. And when you're looking for the meaning of life, it's almost like that's the end. And it's really not. It's the story that's where the meaning is.
Yeah.
What you do in between those dates.
I agree. It's a tough journey. It's not going to be easy. I mean, that's the thing that people, I think they think they're just going to step into it and it's going to be great.
I'm going to point that out real quick, because it's for most people, it's not a tough journey, and they're okay with that, because they're not going to get the super highs, but they're also not going to get the super lows, and they're okay just simply going through that. And that's the majority of people, and that's okay. But if you want to make a difference in this world, and if you want to get those things that other people have, and you're willing to get rid of the ceiling so you can achieve anything, you also have to be willing to get rid of the floor. And most people aren't willing to do that. And so most entrepreneurs, and I know myself included, have had years where I've literally made negative dollars. And if I had stayed in the cubicle farm at Eli Lilly, I would be living a very comfortable life, but that's not me. That's not what I want to do.
You know, it's so funny. You're speaking to my soul when you say that, because there was a point in my life some years ago where I basically lost everything. I lost it all. And I was still bound somehow. I don't know how I got through that period of time, but I was still bound to make a difference. I still had the mission. And when I had nothing else, I hung on to the mission. And it was, I always say that I gave a lot to leadership, but leadership took a lot from me. And what I mean by that, the whole journey to where I am today. It's it was very, very hard. And I where you're basically knocked to your knees and you have to get up. Go ahead.
And one of my favorite leaders, a colonel in the Marine Corps, and he had this picture of a old lion, and it had its missing one eye, had scars all over the face, and says everybody wants to be a leader until it's time to do leadership stuff, or everybody wants to be a gangster until it's time to do gangster stuff. And it's unbelievably difficult. But I want to go back to what you talked about, because this is something I explore a lot in my book, and I put a lot in several chapters on this, and this concept of the crucible and the abyss. You get to a point in your life where everything you've done that's gotten to you that point is not enough to get you past that point, and you crash and you burn. And some people call it a midlife burnout. Some people it's divorce, drug, alcoholism, whatever it is. And the philosopher Nietzsche says that when you stare long enough in the abyss, eventually the abyss will stare back. And what that means is it consumes you. And when you can look at that horrible point in your life, that difficult point in your life, and have appreciation for it because of the clarity that it gave you, because then all the extemporaneous things are gone, and you're focused on what is your why, what is it going to get you through. And then you use that rock bottom as the foundation to build your castle, is the foundation to build that new journey that you've got, because you've cleared away all that fluff and everything else. And a lot of people will never get to the abyss because they don't want to live on those extremes that we talked about. And there are people that get to the abyss that can't get out of it because they stay there too long and they get comfortable with it, and they react. But the abyss is something every couple of decades, it's got to smack you right in the face and remind you what you're doing. And usually in your 30s or 40s, it has to do with either love, divorce, or your business. And then when you get into your 60s or 70s, it's usually a health scare. That's something that knocks you back down to reality again.
Yeah, I agree. So it's life is an interesting journey. There's no question about it. We're getting close to the end, and I'd like to ask you one of my favorite questions, and because I think I think I enjoy what we have talked about so far, and I'm sure this will be a very interesting question, and that is, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it at any issue or problem in the world in which you work, what would that problem be, and why did you choose that?
That's a great question. It's a tough one to think of. I think I'm a patriot, and I wish we would have more patriotism in this country. And I think one of the things I lack that frustrates me is people think that means we all have to hold hands and get along. No, the designers of our Constitution designed it with two parties in place to argue. But when we get to the point where we're not arguing to come up with point and counterpoint, and we're trying to just make everybody so angry, and because they don't disagree with them, and you're seeing it especially in the last couple of months with Trump as president, I just wish people would disconnect the emotional side of it from the actual logical component. So that one magic wand that I would have is love this country. I do believe America is an exceptional. We have sacrificed more than any country in the history of time for people, and we continue to do that. And let's focus more on what we have in common and less on what we have apart, and try to take some of that emotion out of it and just look at it from a logical standpoint. Because one of the things that gives me pride is I'm a man of service. You're a man of service. We served in our military, but your service doesn't stop when you take off the uniform. The job of the military is not just to make great warriors, it's to make great Americans. And when you find people that get out and they take that uniform off and they still show that patriotism, that love, because patriotism is more than just your country. It's your fellow man. It's loving, it's helping out, and knowing that we're all part of that same group to help each other out. But yet you are responsible for your own destiny too. I think that would be one thing I'd love to see some changes.
Great. That's a great answer. A friend of mine says we need to return to the idea of the loyal opposition.
Mhm.
You know, sure, you can have differentiation, sure, but we're all focused on, the central theme, which is this country's worth saving. This country has done, as you say, great things. Yeah, we've made mistakes. We all know that. Everybody knows that. We've made mistakes, but we've worked to correct those mistakes. That's the thing. We just don't say, okay, we made a mistake. Well, we're going to continue on with it. No. We've passed laws. We passed amendments. We've tried to create a way in which we can correct the mistakes, because life's not perfect, and a country is not perfect. but we all try to get back to the real focal point. And as I say, one of the problems is today there used to be this uniting principle. We're all Americans. We're all going down this road together. And yes, we can have disagreements. But nowadays it seems like it's your team or my team.
Yep.
And
It's
and the separation it gets wider and wider, and that's too bad. I'll
just
ask you for
because
some
you're right.
closing comments.
Yeah, just because you're right doesn't mean I'm wrong. We can both believe in certain things that are different than each other. But yes, I think that's, as a country, we're a country of leaders. We are leadership. That's what brings us where we are. That's the responsibility. And then I think you also have to understand there's a burden of leadership too. And we pay that burden with our fallen brothers and sisters, the treasures that we've lost and the other type of things. But that's part of the job of being a leader.
Yeah, I agree. It's a tough road. Anyway, Zachary, listen, thank you so very much for being here today on the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I have had a wonderful time in our conversation together, and I appreciate everything you've done for the country and for the people that you come in contact with every day. I wish you every success in the future. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being on the podcast.
Mine you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.